Argument of Brother Radni is very deficient and it needs to be corrected. He has a misconcept about the word qira. And the first incident when an angel Jibrael told Muhammad to read. Now, Iqra has two meanings. When a Qari recites the Quran, he does not read it from any book. Qira does not necessarily indicate reading from a paper. And moreover, at that time there were no papers. So when he says ma ana bi qari'in, this is it does not indicate that something was presented to him, a scroll on which this was written. No hadith indicates this. So in general, he understands the word iqra to also mean to read. And he is overwhelmed by that experience. So without looking at anything, he says, ma ana bi qari'in. I am not the one who can read. So when he insisted and held him and in his arms, if an apparition can be called as his, that angel appeared to him as an apparition. Directly you can't see Angel Jibrael. But he appeared to him as someone who held him in his arms. And then without any paper before him, he said the same words, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. He didn't read from anything. So this incident is completely misinterpreted. Number two, al-ummiyin in the case of Arab certainly means unlettered people. Because at Sulh Hudaybiyah, when Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to write his name, he asked Hazrat Ali or his other companions, where should he sign? If he could read, he could have immediately seen where he should have signed. So it was a sure proof that Rasulullah did not read. And whenever he needed the Torah to be read out to him, there is not a single hadith which indicates that he took the Torah in his hand and started reading. He always asked some companion of his who could read to read the Torah as had been demanded of him by the situation. Nobody can quote a single instance where he started reading Torah. So his instruction was verbal, and that verbal instruction was conveyed to the scribes, al-kutab, and he used to tell them verbally to put this there and to put it there. It is never reported of him to have taken the scroll into his hand and said, look here, put this there and put it there. The whole Quran was memorized by him at the time when Jibrael read it out to him. And there was nothing which was provided to him in writing. There is no proof whatsoever, not even a hint, that what Jibrael brought to him was something in writing. It was all oral. And that is why the Quran says that don't move your tongue rapidly. Allah will take care of it, that you remember what you are told. So if he could write, he could immediately write whatever he had heard. And there was no problem with Qutab or anybody else. So there's so many indications which indicate that Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the only prophet who can be definitely called as the one who does not read or write. Al-Ummi is a word which is applicable to illiterate people, unlettered people. But show me this word in application to any prophet of God. Not one prophet other than Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is referred to in the Quran as Nabiul Ummi. This Ummi is a distinction, and this distinction should not be mixed up with the rest of the prophets. Moses could read, we know. Abraham could read, other prophets could read. In whatever script the language was written, they could read something. But Ahmad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam could not read, and there is a sure proof from all these things which I have said that he could neither read nor write. Only he had learned to write his name. Even the ordinary unlettered people can do so. Many people who cannot read a single word or write a single word, but they can write their own names. So whenever you present the documents to them, they say, where should I write this? And they sign. So like this, because letters had to be written to kings and great people, inviting them to Islam, and according to the traditions and the custom, these letters had to be signed by the one who had them written. So Rasulullah learned to write his own name, and that is the only evidence of what he ever wrote. At Sulh Hudaybiyah, he did the same thing. He signed all the letters which were addressed to other people, but they were written not in his hand, they were written by other Kuttab. Right? And they were written not on paper, because the paper was not yet invented. They were written on some parchments. Right?
So if I may give a brief description of the question for the benefit of the English viewers. This question was about Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He was called as An-Nabi Al-Ummi, and according to Brother Nadir Al-Muradni from Syria, he said this means Ummi, that the person who did not receive any book from Allah. And he said that the first verse was revealed to Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Iqra, which means read. And how, Allah will ask a person who doesn't know how to read and give him an instruction against that and asking him to read. Also he says that Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was involved in learning the business of his wife radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and for a person to run such a business, he should know at least the basic rules of maths.
All Meccans did business, you know, and a large majority could not read. Poets remembered, sometimes it's reported, 100,000 verses, and they could not read. So he should apply his mind to Arab history of the time.